pre-AI or pre-automation era of talent acquisition and now? What are some of the challenges or differences that you see?
I would say 5% of our total hiring comes through the emerging talent.
How do you take the culture forward, keeping the Akamai vibes on?
FlexSpace offers us both the challenge and the opportunity to try different things.
Hardcore software engineer to a manager and then to a
general management,
general manager. Quite a journey. And Akamai India has also grown alongside. Hello and welcome to Bytes and Beyond. Today we have two very senior Akamai leaders here with us to kick this new podcast off. Thank you so much for joining us, Prasad and Subbu. Whenever I meet any engineering leaders, it's very interesting for me to understand how their journey has been so far. I know I can introduce you in a couple of lines, but I don't want to do that. I want to give you both that chance to basically take time and talk about the story that you've enjoyed so far. As engineering leaders, I was thinking about what would be a good point to start off. And I felt maybe the time that you spent in engineering college would be a good start. So Prasad, do you want to talk about what your mindset was when you were trying to get into the engineering college, how your experience was during those 4 years, and what sort of changed in you by the time you graduated?
It was an exciting time. I would say, apart from the regular coursework, I was lucky to be able to get like a part-time job on campus and do that from my second year. Really, I think helped me grow as an individual. Definitely also practical skills like programming for a project, very results oriented. So, it was an exciting time.
At IIT Madras?
At IIT Madras. And by the time I was graduating, I think there was a sense of achievement. And also, I think still the urge to learn at that time. So, went to graduate school subsequently in the US. But I think that's how it was. If I look back now, those 4 years, lot of accomplishments, lot of learning, lot of friends, that network is big.
Lots of fun, I'm sure.
It's like you hang on to it, you realize, people went off and did many great things, So, I mean, that was the exciting time, before set off going beyond the shores and getting stuff done.
And we'll pick up where we left off. Subbu, you're a Bangalore boy. How's your time spent during graduation?
I left Bangalore 99. I've been in Austin since then. But I still consider myself a Bangalore boy because I've been here. I did my college here. I did my, PUC here. Yep. So it was fantastic. Those days, I was fascinated to computers anyways, right? In the sense that those were the days where you could cobble up computers. I had a small business on the side where we used to do gray market computers, right? And so we got pieces, built them, and then used it myself and kind of sold it so that I get some pocket money to use, where my father was not that generous to give me much. So we made it up by doing all these. But it was very fascinating days because once I saw that, I really want to get into that field.
Once a hustler, always a hustler.
I've been hustling all this year as well, it was fantastic, right? So, during college days, get to understand how to deal with people and how to be a salesman. Happened right then and there. And then you get into programming aspects of it where you say that, if you want to do this, hardware is just not your life. You need to be in the software, which is soft skills. Wow. This is life story, right? And you can deal with that. You just can't be in one area. You got to have soft skills as well. So programming came along. So I started getting into programming. And then what fascinated me in programming was more as I told you that I dealt more with hardware. I wanted to be close to the hardware. So I was part of a kernel development team. So my life started as a kernel developer.
Very organically, essentially. Was it your master thesis on
my master's was
machine language? Assembly language?
Assembly language. That was one of my whole thing. So it went on. Then I joined. I completed my college. As Prasad mentioned, friendship. It blossoms there. I still have my friends who I'm even now. So when I come down to Bangalore, I have a couple of friends whom I always want to meet. So it's been fantastic. College life, if anyone thinks college, should they go to college? You got to go college probably when you're in 80s, 90s, and probably after 50s, one more time you want to go to college. So yeah, it's been fun, great, and it's given lots of memories to me, which I still cherish.
And the times were very different back then, right? Like,
Nobody not that old, right?
I'm sure you had, but times are changing so fast.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the internet probably wasn't
I
as
was just going to say the social media thing does change it. I'm okay saying I have a son in college, and their life
He doesn't look like it.
their life is different. I do see that there's a generational shift. They're definitely more digital natives. We didn't have choices. Like when I was in college, the access to computer was through the college. Like you need to be into a lab. There was a computing lab. I mean, we are the leading institute in the country. We of course need to have computing lab, but apart from that, personal computing was not that widely available. So you would get that as a privilege, like through a professor, through a lab, something like that. So I think whereas now you have it right at your fingertips, you have very powerful smartphones or tabs. Laptop is a given when you're in college, but you also have, a lot more of online engagement. I mean, when you say internet, right? I mean, we have changed our ways of life from
it's
the
so
90s
difficult to imagine time before the internet.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of change, but it's also, I would say, full of opportunities. If you look at it from a college perspective, you can learn so many practical things if you apply yourself to it. I mean, that's key.
Yeah. I can remember, those days it used to be dial-up modems. People won't even know what is a dial-up modem, right? Yeah, it was like, you want to get access to internet? Do you have a phone? Yeah. Do you have a dial-up modem? And you have one phone? And if someone wants to talk, you hear that crazy noise, whatever that was. So it was fun old days, but it was good days, right? Because as he said,
knew the value of what we had in that 1 hour or whatever little limited bandwidth you had to get things.
Our smartphones now are much more powerful than the biggest computer I had in IBM when I joined, right? So you think about it, right? They used to give us a big box to work on. And that power is nothing compared to the smartphones that you carry in your pocket nowadays. Right?
And even if you take a laptop and the ability to kind of deploy, software, compilers, it's very easy. You also get access to cloud environments. Right? It's so easy to get access to a cloud environment, go try out various things. I mean, I think it's limitless.
With GenAI, you probably don't have to do anything yourself.
We got GenAI in. We have to talk about it. Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely that's also a change in the campus times where, some colleges are really strong about plagiarism. So they actually put in software to check if you use GenAI directly to do your work. But you can develop a game plan using GenAI. That's okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what I've seen in the next generation. Mm-hmm. Basically, they're using it as a research tool, gives you some solid clues about what to do. Then you go about doing your own work and have your own stamp on it, right? That is the way.
The foundation that it gives you is fantastic. Yeah. And you not plagiarize anything, but at least the foundation it gives you, and then you can build on top of it, right? So it's
there's of course all the questions about what is ethical, what is not, because the thing that they're saying is, look, GenAI will give you all this code snippets, this information. Does it have actually the intellectual property rights to give you that? That's
those problems.
I think it's a cultural evolution, and
things are changing more and more. Before, when it came, it didn't have the human touch, but right now it's even getting that. Right, you get the human touch. Where do you draw the lines is very important. I don't think we are discussing those aspects at this point of time, but that's a topic on its own where we can spend hours together talking about whether that's the right thing, whether it's moving the right direction. It's very similar to, what people used to talk before. Is it okay to have a heart transplant when the heart belonged to someone else? That was the ethical discussion 25 years ago when transplant was coming into play. Right now, it's the same kind of a thing, right? Things will evolve, but it's a good conversation to have, and it's a long conversation to have. And it's a good topic on its own.
Yeah, and it leads me to... So basically, these are the challenges that someone graduating today will face. Yeah. I want to just rewind and go back to the the sort of challenges that you faced and when you first started your career, essentially, what were the AI, MLs and blockchains of your time? Like, what was the cool tech that you wanted to get into?
Go for it, Subbu.
See, for us, in those days, even to have a grand campus interview it's a big thing, right? Prestigious colleges had it, but it's not that it happened everywhere and kids were opened up to all those, right? But that's a completely different story now, right? But then, you got to get through all those. That on its own is a big thing to say that, as a campus interview, does your college have campus hires? Do they have recruiters who can come really help you out in those areas? Now, every college does that. And those days, it's a handful of colleges. If you're in a prestigious college, it happened. So that was a big thing. And second thing is, again, culture itself, right? Most of them joined engineering for the fact that they joined engineering, they had nothing else to do, right? And after you get into that, after 4 years, you figure out, this is the right thing for me or not. And then where do you invest your time, right? Do you want to go do, at least when I was passing out, it was like, 2000. So that year 2000 thing was there and everyone were jumping into cloud, everyone into computers. So it was easier that way.
Oh, okay.
So even a mechanical engineer would become a computer engineer. Even a person who was doing anything that was not even related to computers, they can get into computers for the fact that, Gen 2K, Y2K was a big buzzword which turned out to be a dud. But those are the times where...
it was a .com boom as well.
I can tell you this, my master's was not in computer science. It was in aerospace engineering mechanics. So
interesting.
Very, very deep math. I used to do tensorial analysis and all that stuff. But I did a minor in computer science. Eventually, I almost did a double master's in computer science. But definitely an exciting time when that area, that information technology versus compute was kicking off. And I can say personally, internet was kicking off. Like when I was in graduate school in the US, we had access to, I remember it as Mosaic browser. It went through changes. I think it's now called Mozilla.
Mozilla, yeah.
But that was the origin. And that was a privilege, being on a powerful computer in a lab in the college and getting access to this new HTML hypertext markup language, and there was a lot of buzz around it. I remember creating my homepage with one photo and then saying, nah, this is not the thing I want to do. And actually went off to, real applications. I mean, that was where I started off, more of programming and applications.
So what was the first project that you got into?
I remember it as stuff like computational fluid dynamics, using programming like Fortran and all those to do engineering problem solving. But as I did my master's and got out into the industry, I realized my strength was in the software side and I really liked it. So I just said, why not switch? And that went off into stuff like telecom.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. I was in the DC area in US, so worked on war simulation software. That was something else.
Federal government.
Maybe they'll kill me if I talk about it. But no, it was unclassified from software perspective. The data was classified. So they would take it off into a vault and apply their real data, whereas I would work on dummy data and get stuff out. So, many different industries, telecom, satellite telecommunications, telecommunication testing. I was in healthcare, printing software. Finally, before Akamai.
Finally at Akamai.
Yeah,
we'll take a pause and ask Subbu how his journey has been. Maybe starting from the first project that you worked.
I mean, couple of things. I said I was a hustler from day one, as I said, right? So but I became a kernel developer. So when I joined IBM, the first project I was doing was IBM was into this 64-bit chip. Then they didn't have the 64. So they were the one pioneers who were trying to do the 64-bit chip. And when they did the hardware, they wanted to convert their software to be running on that. So the kernel had to be modified to be 64-bit compliant. So that was my first project. Wow. Right, directly jumping into kernel.
The deep side
of it,
end of everything.
Before that, as in college, when I was working in college, as I said, assembling computer was one. But I also was interested in small business where my father used to be in sales, so he had friends. And those days, the billing was all manual. People used to invoice everything manually. And luckily, I got someone, they said, can you digitalize this for me? When I print something, I want the printer to print this. So that was the easiest thing to do. So
what we take for granted today.
What we take for granted today. Every shop, that invoice that's written in hand, it need not be, they wanted to have a digitalized printed copy, right? Now to take that format, to fit in the printer and get it out, align it in such a way that everything comes out good. That was my first project while I was while I was studying, right? So I got that done, and I thought that'll be great. And later, as I said, I jumped into
So what do you use for that? C and device drivers and stuff?
For your
printer project.
Printer that, there was multiple things that we did. I started off using this thing called COBOL. Because COBOL was much easier, because that was one of the programming languages that we were taught in school to go do it. And one of the projects that we had written was started in COBOL. But then started off in COBOL, but it didn't help me. Then I moved on to Fortran, which I finally did it, because the Fortran helps you to do mathematical calculations.
Abhishek is like, where are all these languages?
What are all these languages?
I was taught that.
Yeah, nowadays we're going to talk about Python. No, those were Fortran days. Because calculation is very important.
I was going to say, COBOL is not in my list, but I have everything else in the list.
COBOL is a mainframe still.
Fortran, Pascal, Lisp, C, C++.
Lisp is making a comeback.
Java, all the languages. So always considered language as a tool and looked at it that way.
Once you get to know what it is, you can write whatever language, right? So that's I said. So then get into kernel programming. That was the big project that was doing. So it was all hardcore, down to thing. It's not fancy UI programming. I was not a front end programmer. I was more towards the back end.
I made up for that. I was more in the front end.
So I was a back end programmer.
And different challenges there, of course.
So it was fantastic. So got to learn that one, and moved on to compilers a bit. Did some more compiling work, and then I want to get into device drivers. And I don't know if this is another word I'm going to say, Banyan Wines. I don't know if anyone of you heard about this operating system then called Banyan Wines. So that was someone wanted to, this I've already transitioned from IBM to Dell by then. So Dell, I was in part of this team called customer engineering, where we go do specific things for customers. So one of the customers, they were still on their primitive things called Banyan Wine, which was almost dead operating system, and they wanted to write a device driver for it, because they were buying Dell hardware and we were writing management software for that, but it was not working because Banyan Wine didn't have the device driver. So my forte was, I'm a kernel developer, I can surely write something here. So that was my thing, jumping into Banyan Wines and writing some device drivers. And then things took a different way. I became an architect and got into management and things like that. But initial programming was all.
Let's talk about that. I mean, it seems very hardcore to the point where we are right now. How did you move from someone at a kernel level, at a device driver level, to an architect, and then to a manager, and finally to a leader?
Opportunities come knocking on your doors, right? So that's one thing that you got to be aware of. Opportunities do come knocking, you have to take it with both your hands, right? So that was one such thing, because I said I moved from IBM at that point of time to Dell for various reasons, personal reason, work reason. So I moved on to Dell. It was pretty good, because that was one of the companies I stayed the longest. It was a fantastic company for me personally, for my growth and things like that. So that's where I moved on from this, as I said, custom engineering thing, where I was polishing myself and my skills, because that they gave me the ability to go speak to all the customers, deal with the customers themselves directly. So once I was doing that, I felt that, what could open my eyes much more is to become a little higher, not just look at 2 lines of code, but design something that would make a change. So I started designing stuff, architecting. So that architecture came naturally. So I was into architecture for a long, design architecture, right? System architecture, then into product architecture. While you're doing system architecture and product architecture, you're all automatically working on your leadership skills.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't be a good architect without being a good leader, right? You got to be a good leader, and without that, you can't sell your ideas. So while you're doing that one, management was the next thing, where you would feel like, it's just not you who helps the company win. It's actually a team that helps the company thrive, right? So I wanted to make sure that we build a team, we build an optimal team, we build a team that everyone's proud of. So I got into management, because I wanted to make sure that it's not me individual. As a team, we need to be good at. And I got into that level management. Once into management, you show your abilities, you impress your peers, you work good with your superiors, And then you got to make sure that, again, at a team level, if you want to go better, you got to make sure that you're able to not only sell your ideas, you should be able to sell others' ideas along with your ideas. So then the charter grew, Dell got bigger, we started doing good then, the opportunities grew. So I was in Dell for a long time. And then I moved on and came back to IBM because by the end of my days in Dell, we were doing big data.
Oh.
Right. So big data was the buzzword then, even now, right? So we went into big data and AI didn't catch it, but it was big data.
And the transition, a spectrum of IT is
right. So I was doing big data a lot. You can't do computation of big data on-prem, right? You got to have off-prem. So I was kind of using cloud to an extent. So I was doing that a lot. Then I went to IBM to start up their cloud department. Because
did you call them data lakes or something else?
Data lakes.
Data lakes.
Okay. It's still
that's
called
the
data
word.
Lakes,
Yeah, that's
data
right.
lakes. Yeah. So it was fun times. And then we wanted to build the cloud, or IBM wanted to build the cloud then. So I went back to IBM saying that, you know what, data lakes and big data is good. So I want to get into IBM. For the fact that two things inspired me to go back to IBM. If you all know, AI is a big word then, but IBM was into Watson, like are
even
the pioneers. It's been there for a long time. And they were looking at how to integrate Watson with the cloud technology that they're trying to build out. So I was there in IBM doing their cloud initiatives. And out of cloud initiative for IBM, then I joined Akamai for the last 15 months to make sure that we do the same things that we're doing everywhere else. And now I'm in Akamai for the last 15, 16 months now, I think.
Wow.
Helping Akamai to build Akamai Cloud. Right. So it's been a great journey for me, starting off from being a hustler, as you said, to, and then doing small side projects, now to build the biggest clouds that we can be proud of. So it's a pretty
you
good
come
journey.
along for sure. So 15 months at Akamai for you, 15 years at Akamai for Prasad. But even before, let's go to the start of your journey at Akamai. Like, how did you land at Akamai? That too at Akamai India.
Interesting, similar journey from leadership perspective. I had, first few years I was a techie doing application programming. And then I had the opportunity to come back to India from US. So that was a period where there was this question of, look, I can split off into architecture, I can split off into management. Mm-hmm. Where do I fit in? And probably when I did interviews at that time, I bothered the interviewers a lot. I asked them questions about where do you see me fitting? And they're like, depends on your mindset, where do you want to go? So chose to be a lead and then, grew with the opportunities. And before coming to Akamai, I was working at a Pittsburgh company, just established the India Center for them. It's a small company in healthcare technology. And I was the one-man army who came in, set up the place, incorporated it, built the whole place to about 50 people. And at some point, we hit a point where we're like, this is it. And if you want to have any growth opportunities, come back to the mothership in US. And I said, no, personally, I'm not going to go. So when I interviewed at Akamai, it was a senior manager of engineering opportunity. And it was a very small team. I would be the sixth member in the team in what they called enterprise systems engineering at that time. And
if I'm not wrong, I also joined Akamai in 2009. I know we were 50 members in engineering then and 500 total.
We were not even 500. So when I joined, we were 350 if I remember right. Yeah. So that was the rough number. Easy to kind of swivel chair, look around and find people, right? That's very, very
floor and a half.
Very, very different, right? And you look at the journey. The point at that time was, hey, there's a senior manager role, and they looked at me and said, you have actually much larger, skill sets or capabilities, but we'll see how it goes if there are growth opportunities. And it was tremendous growth. I was recalling recently, when I joined, the global company was sub-$1 billion revenue. But very quickly, we hit 2010, we hit billion. And then it was the fastest doubling, when we went to 2. And that meant a lot of opportunity. And we were growing globally. When we showcased what is possible here in the, global center of excellence here, I think the opportunities just kept going. So I organically grew in my management roles. And the inflection point, I was always interested in like the whole general management of the center, and was participating in very key programs that, were helping the center with innovation, operations, stuff like branding. And when my predecessor actually left Akamai, who was the managing director of India, there was that opportunity kind of presenting itself. This was way back in 2017. And I expressed interest because it was a genuine, look, that seems like something I'm very interested in. Fantastic. I mean, the kind of growth we have grown through that, after that, it's a very organic, opportunity-based company growth that we have seen. And, a lot of pride in the culture, leaders like you have grown along.
Thank
and,
you.
Lots of camaraderie, innovation, brilliance, people have shown through challenges. And we've had our journeys like with the activist investors coming and company feeling a squeeze. We had to go through a year to couple of years of tough times. And, funnily enough, that was right after I took on the managing director role. So
the first challenge.
Staring at this big mountain, but you look back and say, look, we stood up to the challenge. We grew ourselves to kind of walk through those challenges and get here. And, I think right now, if you look at it, it's at a great spot set up for like future growth, the right kind of leadership, right kind of skills, and the ecosystem all around here. If you look at it, there's a tremendous ecosystem. And like when Subbu joined, right, it was great to collaborate. And he said, look, they do cloud engineering just like in the same park in a different building. And we're like, that's good to know, because we're going to get some of them, keep moving. And it's been a pretty exciting journey.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, from a hardcore software engineer to a manager, and then to a
general management,
general manager. Quite a journey. And Akamai India has also grown alongside.
So that's what I was saying, right? I remember back then when we were, in the beginning stages of our journey, it probably sub 500 people. And we have really brought in a breadth and depth here with respect to many things. I mean, I would say while we are an engineering center of excellence and have hundreds of engineers, we also have our go-to-market teams here. We have services and support which are providing services to the global customers. We have operations center of excellence here. A lot of the operations are taken up here. So it's grown. Feel very fortunate about that.
Yeah,
I mean, Akamai has grown a lot. That's one of the things that really enticed me, in the sense that, Akamai has seen the good times and not so good times, and they always come out of the not so good times, right? Which not many companies can do that easily, right? For the fact that it can go from nowhere and it quickly jump there, and then probably things go not in the right way. But it's not that you're faced by issues, so you come out of it, right? So that's one thing. When I was in IBM and wanted to move over, or when I was looking for, to join Akamai, what people ask, why did you? Right, you're leaving a big company like IBM,
to like a smaller
one here. What is it? That's the thing, right? In the sense that for you to really come out of issues and not get worried about it, right? That's something that you want to learn. That's fantastic. If you look at it, opportunities, Akamai India is doing fantastic in the sense that the cloud, when we started our journey, we hardly had 4 or 5 folks. And now we have quite a number. Right. So those are the things that you got to make sure that you're able to manage difficult times. And Akamai is something that is very good at managing difficult times.
Actually, that's a point I would say too. When I joined, for me, I say this even today, I was in US when Akamai went IPO. I was like just an observer, right? It was the biggest IPO of that time. This term called Content Delivery Network, CDN, was coined. People went gaga about it, how we can stream live music concerts and, the best of web experiences and all that stuff, right? So I saw it, I said, oh, stock market something. But when I interviewed again way back in 2009, it was that recall factor, saying, oh, this was a really big name. And then you research as to what happened. It went through a lot with 911 and the .com bust afterwards. And it was on the upswing after that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And when I looked up the numbers and what they were doing, it was a very interesting growth story, right, where they rebounded and then they were spending on R&D. And the product revenue was on a growth path. You look at stock trends, like Subbu was saying, it's a very heartwarming story. And, with the brand recall factor and the leadership and culture, it makes it very interesting to...
Yeah, and you joined during the subprime crisis, right?
Oh, absolutely. Lehman Brothers and,
So what confidence did you have to join this
Oh, it was funny. Actually, there were very few opportunities in the market at that time. Oh, that's the other thing about Akamai. We always hire during those tough times.
I also joined that same year.
Exact time, right? Like, it's like, everything is drying up and there is this one company saying, hey,
I'm going to take more.
Yeah, we're going to take more now. It's similar in the last couple of years, I would say. Yeah. It was a tough time. I mean, I did have one or two other opportunities, and even Akamai was funny, We had a very geeky, recruiter who was recruiting me. I went through some 9 rounds of interviews, and it was all kinds of things. But those were exciting times too. I think opportunity in the midst of a big crisis. Global economy was going through a lot of stuff at that time, and to get this, I would say, a window of opportunity, saying, look, it's a small team and. But we're a growing company, and let's go in and see what happens. I think a lot of us have similar stories, which is the amazing piece.
And to continue on Akamai's story, like when you joined, the internet had caught up. Like, people were doing media streaming a lot, and I think that's the point at which you must have joined. Yeah. And from there, the mobile internet sort of exploded, right? Yeah. And then web became an area for
social media. In the early 2010s, right? 2011, that is the biggest transformation. Yeah, and
for Akamai to have ridden that wave and then go into security, maybe.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like about a decade ago, we made this big plunge, into security by acquiring this company called Prolexic. Right? And what they call scrubbing centers, network security, that is the area. I think it was a key turning point for us, because we got the security muscle, right? Like, it's what I call developing the muscle, of a security company. It does take something to be that. We also realized something, that our platform, we call it intelligent platform, CDN platform, whatever we call it, is very well set up. Apart from the streaming, delivery, and all that stuff, right? Very well set up to do security. The way we are all over the world, we can secure from the edge. That was like a clear realization, among the management. And again, never looked back from there. Started with the network security, but started adding more of like web security, where you secure the thing, and then you do enterprise security, zero trust, and recently we went into segmentation with Guardicore, and that's a market leading offering where people want to secure their crown jewels in their enterprise, and we offer a market leading solution, right? And so if you look at that security piece, that's been a very, very positive story, and I think this last year it has been our biggest revenue earner when it comes to the global how things are set up. And that's like what Subbu said, which is, we take up something, we go through challenges, but on the other end, we come up much stronger. I think that's a trend I would like to, point out about security. And of course, we got into compute. Early on, we did try out, you probably remember stuff like Edge Java and all. We tried it out. We were a little bit ahead of the market or ahead of the curve. But eventually said, this is a place we want to be. And, a couple of years ago, we got into compute.
And is the transition organic to you, like starting from CDA into media, web, security, and now?
It feels like we were doing the right things at the right time, being very open, proactive, to adjacencies and opportunities in the market, because ultimately, we are in the corporate world. We are answerable to our stakeholders. So how do you keep the ball rolling is the key thing.
And in 25 years, so many transitions, but I think that has led us to this point. Like
that shows the leadership that we have, right? So for us to go figure out what's the right thing to go invest, it's just that it doesn't come, it's not by luck. Yeah. Right? It's not by luck at all, right? The way CDN started, it was something that we then leadership went after. And then we jumped into security. It was a thoughtful process saying that we need to get into security because it's a tag along for CDN, because if you have content, you need to have security. Right? So that's an organic thing, but still leadership had to understand that one and invest in that one, right? So organically gets invested in security. Then after security, as Prasad said, what else? We need to invest in something next, which is compute, right? Because compute is been there for a while. You have big four names who lead the market at this point of time. To have the guts even then to say that, even then if there are four big gorillas in the thing, we still need to go invest in compute because it is adjacent to the story that we are weaving.
I think that's been the thing with the customers. They've been asking for it all along. I mean, even the Edge Java stuff was a response to, our customers would want to, on the edge, outsource some of their processing and all that stuff. That's how it started. But very naturally, we talk about the Akamai Connected Cloud, where it fulfills the customer requirement, where they're saying, look, you're amazing at delivery, you're amazing at securing us, right? Now, can you also give us a platform that lets us do some of our computing needs? And so...
why go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Right? Why can't you do it for us?
And they trust us. I mean, that's one thing I love, being in front of customers. I'm sure Subbu does too. And the kind of trust people show, saying, look, you're a technology leader and we trust the way you can run your operations, and that's why we would want to put our business on yours. Yeah. So that's
these three things need to be up and running, right? It's not that one day it's running well, another days it goes down. It's not, right? From a content, it has to be there and available 24/7 so that it's streaming and it's available. That's by nature. You got to have it. And then by nature, you can't just say that I'm securing you for... and after that, I'm not securing
80% of the time.
80-20, the 80-20 rule does not apply there, right? So you got to be securing. In the similar fashion, if you come into compute, you can't just say that, I'll be computational power for you. Everything will be up and running for X number of hours. Sorry, once in a while, we'll go down as well. That's not how it works, right? So all these three things are part and parcel of our cloud network, that connected cloud that we talked about. But everything is in such serious matters here because it has to be up and running 24/7, maintained 24/7, optimal 24/7, stable 24/7, reliable 24/7, right? Feature rich 24/7. So those are the things that you really have to be looking at. That 24/7 resonates to everything that we do. And leadership. See, that's why I'm very happy with our own folks in the fact that every single individual in Akamai understands this and they stand up to it. Right? Again, we can't say 80-20, 80% of people are okay with it and 20% don't do it. Again, we can't be that way. So the company culture is good, where everyone stands up, including the management, including the leaders, including the people who are working hands-on the keyboard, plus people who are talking to the customers, plus sales people who are selling and marketing people who are selling our product to the customers. Everyone stand by it.
If you don't stand by it, I think culturally there is this awareness of incident management. Like when we talk about a 24/7 culture, right? Like you say, hey, this is an incident, this is an issue, and everybody rallies around it, and that makes a big difference, right? I mean, we're an army when we get to, it takes a village to fix anything, right? So, and I think that's one thing that reflects in that customer trust, because for them, they know a whole set of smart people are actually backing them up.
Just having smart people, right, in one area is not. That's why it's all around. It's in our culture, it's in our DNA. I think the DNA resonates in that 25 years, as we said, ups and downs, goods and bads, we come out of it positively, right? It's a great story for us. And compute for us is in the same. We are building, we are doing that. For the next known years, compute's going to be there. Right, in the sense that it's going to morph, transform itself in various which ways. But cloud has been there before, but cloud will continue to be there for a known future. Because as we said, the connected cloud is just not a story for us. Connected cloud is a story for everyone. Because if you look at it there, cloud as it stood before was, I want to do everything central core. Now more and more cloud is on the edge. Like everything is happening at the edge. Right? Cloud also has to be happening at the edge. So if you look at for the next 5-10 years, what would be the champion that would be pushing cloud through is your edge computing. You got to be very, very edge aware, and that's where cloud is going to go.
And does our position as the leading CDN across the world,
exactly.
Does that put us
That's the reason why we are already edge aware. Who knows better than us from edge awareness? Is Akamai, because we already are into content delivery, and if you're not having an edge presence, you're not going to be doing so, right? So it's a natural, as I said, everything is a natural fit for us where we go next. In a similar fashion, when cloud says we want to go edge aware, we're already edge aware at this point of time. We just need to make sure computational power is aware at the edge. And that's what you'll be investing in, right? So we are positioned right for where the market wants to go from a compute perspective. Right?
And that's the same thing I hear in my, Asia Pacific management circles. Everybody is like, look, there are core computational capabilities where you can get a bulk, but there are asks coming in from the customers about the capabilities at the edge. And how do you aggregate them, right? As a company, we want to invest where there is a return on the investment and, make the right choices over the coming months, years, and offer that up to our customers and opens up innovation for them.
That's right.
Right? So you reach a lot more cities, regions through the edge. And I think that is a unique proposition at this time.
Yeah, again, some companies get it right, some companies get it wrong, in the sense that people feel just having a data center in far unknown places is just being edge. It's not, right?
Because not times the software is available to deploy
exactly.
on it.
We need to be edge native. It's just not that. It needs to be software. We need to be edge native aware, right? In the sense that we got to be able to take the edge computational power, but then weave in the rest of the portfolio behind it, right? So that's what is very important for us.
The 24/7 reliability culture needs to come
security.
in.
That's the biggest thing, right? More and more you go to the edge in far unknown places, security becomes more and more a challenge, right? That's where we need.
And within the costs, I think that is also a big factor coming out of the pandemic. Like a lot of CXOs have realized that
it's good cost.
The costs are picking up. When you just go to the cloud computing, get it done outside, and how do you maintain that cost structure? And we take pride in that we are offering you world-class uptime and feature set.
It's a very competitive price.
At a very competitive price. Yeah. So that's the...
Yeah. Because if you keep doing that, at the end of the day, what people are looking for is, price matters a lot.
Yeah.
Security needs to be hand in hand. I said reliability, security needs to be there. And third thing is many are now looking into compliance. Right? How are you compliant? Basic compliance from geo compliance to government compliance to healthcare compliance. So there are lots of compliance.
Localization.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That's a big one everywhere.
So compliance comes in next. Yeah. And then there's always this big buzzword right now that's happening. It's not a buzzword, it's truth. It's in the AI field, right? How do we weave AI with cloud computation? Right. That's another market that's going to be. And if you talk about various aspects, when you go to the whole reason for being edge aware is for the fact that if you have an event-driven architecture, when you have an event-driven architecture, you cannot be in one core region. You got to be in edge because events happen in various places. So if you have an event-driven architecture, edge-based becomes very, very important. And another thing why it's moving towards edge is also for the fact that if you want to make real-time decisions, right? When you're streaming, when you're doing lots of things, there are lots of real-time decisions that you need to be making. When your situation demands real-time processing, you need to be edge aware as well, right? Because you can't be delayed. For example, all the telecasts that we have, the Super Bowl that we did right now, content came from us, right? It's a big success for us. But if we have to take situational and take some actions for it, you can't say that I'll do computation at my core and then do it. You have to make sure that when data is distributed, now, because no more data is, because when I talked to you, right? Big data, when we started big data, we said data should not be federated. It should not be separated. Let's do federated. Now it's going the other way. Data has to be distributed. Once data is distributed, it's in various different sites. Then you got to make sure that you got to be ready to do real-time situational analysis. When you want to do real-time situational analysis and you have data appropriate for that sitting in each edge, where is compute for it? Yeah. Hence, compute in edge is also picking up, and that would be your future for the next few years. IoT. I mean, I can keep going on and on and on. Why edge is becoming more important, right? Because IoT is important, edge situational is important.
AI inference engine and
so many critical functions depend on us, right? Like so many critical functions, they can't afford a higher latency. Like they need response 100%. As fast as possible.
Yeah. When you want to reduce latency, you want to have better optimal response time. What do you do? The whole story, as I said, the story is weaved. The whole content was to same algorithm. We became the best in the breed because we had that algorithm to understand how do we distribute our content to the places that we need. Now we'll take that same algorithm to say that how do you distribute our computation to the needs, because it's not that you just have edge in one place and it'll be okay. We got to find the right place. Oh, that particular edge requires more computational power. Automatically, how do I orchestrate that? Right? People who lose the battle just saying that, I can do edge. If you can't orchestrate your edge properly based on the requirements, you're losing the battle. You just can say I am edge, but you're not edge native.
Right.
Right. So the word that needs to be stitched together is not edge, it's edge native. Right. So you got to be edge native, and that's all. That's what we'll try to do, saying that how do we orchestrate it to become more edge native. That will be the kill that we would look for.
So is that where the cloud battle will be fought and won eventually?
More and more, this is one of the use cases, right? Cloud has
I think it leads to a lot of innovation by the customers.
Yeah. Exactly. That's end of the day, we will give them cloud, we'll give all these things, but the success is the workloads, how it gets utilized, and how, healthcare is another. See, biggest thing cloud also will be helpful is in college. Right now, if you look at, for example, schools and colleges, when you're doing your curriculum, think about it as a professor when they're teaching you at school. They know you, they can teach for you exactly. I know Abhishek, I know his pluses and minuses, I can target how I need to teach to you. And same for Prasad. But both of you are completely different in the sense that you might not be the same, you're different, your ability to absorb is different, your ability to think and inference is different. But now, if we have to have that intelligence to say that if I'm doing remote, and if I'm teaching the same way to everyone, it's not going to work. I want to customize it to each of my students. How will I do it? I want to take real-time input from those people and then tune the data in such a way that what gets presented to you is different than what gets presented to you. And you might be slow in absorbing stuff, so I need to cater to you. You might be great, so I might have to give you more than what is necessary. Right? So those are the things that you can really make sure when you do to edge, you have data and you have real situational awareness, it's going to be a killer. And that's where you need to be. And that's not that Akamai per se would do it. Those are the applications that would reside on top of it to do it. That would be the SaaS.
So the enabling function here.
And that's where we need to be enablers for SaaS who can leverage the edge native capability.
And there's a lot of things that we are experimenting with where observability at the edge, distributed databases at the edge. I think the list of application is just on and on. Yeah. I think we are just at the beginning of the curve.
Yeah.
But from a personal level, you've, I would say, built organizations building cloud in the past.
Yeah.
Personally for you, why is it important for cloud to succeed? Not just from an Akamai standpoint, but personally.
I've been in the industry trying to transform and build teams for a long time, right? From days where we said that, we need to have 24/7 presence. So, you need to have people working in one geo, and when they go to sleep, someone else need to wake up and they have to work. And then things changed over, say that, no, for cost reasons, move everything to one location. And then they said, no, only think tank needs to be in one location, workforce needs to be in another location. And then optimally right now we are saying that, it doesn't matter. We got to make sure that we put the right things in the right place, which is good for that particular geography, and that emphasize the power of that particular geography. I'm a big proponent of that, in the sense that if you want to invest, you have to invest on people. And people are the one who would make the company succeed or not succeed, right? The technology comes along. For me, I've navigated this industry from big data to cloud at this point of time. Cloud is a combining factor of many things coming together. And for me, it's just not one. It's all if your cloud has to succeed, we have this word that we are now trying to publicize called primitives. Many people know about it, but there are lots of primitives that we want to enable in the cloud. AI as one of the primitive, GPU as one of the primitive, storage enabled optimized plans as a primitive. Lots of primitives, but if you look at all these primitives could be individual features or individual applications or individual, but they all come and become part of the cloud. Right. So for me, cloud is a bigger word where I can get lots of things happening at the same time. But if I want to take a niche and concentrate on a niche, that can also happen. So it's got a universal appeal, and I feel that way it opens the door for far more people, and it helps far more people to succeed just being in the cloud. And for me, if I get attracted to a different area, it could still be part of cloud. Tomorrow, if I feel that, I've done with infrastructure as a service, I want to do software as a service. That's still part of a cloud. Yeah. And tomorrow, if I feel software service is not good, I want to do something else, it could still be part of cloud. And still, that just not me personally, this would be the same story for many people who feel like I don't want to get tied to one. I want to make sure that I can try to move around, try to learn more things. And cloud gives you that ability to learn more and more stuff and innovate more things and be more relevant for the future that it comes along.
So for developers who come maybe a decade from now, for them, cloud would be a given. They would more or less look at how do I use this to build something on it?
Yeah, no one's going to be no one will talk about cloud. It's a given thing at that point of time. Everyone will be having it at back of the pocket, and you just become an application developer on top of it.
Yeah, I think it's similar to, we were recently talking in a seminar about how the, developer co-pilot is this, new thing of giving help from Gen AI into your development. I think for the next generation, that'll be a given, right? They will come in saying, which one am I using? Whereas today it's like, are we using it? Is it ready? Whatever. I think that writing is on the wall. It's
more or less clear. For them, how are we building probably will be taken care of. They'll be like, what am I building? Why am I building?
Yes.
I think those are the questions.
How do you put together the whole thing that works for the business case is going to be
awesome.
The backend should not be a thought. Innovation should be left to people who are innovating. They should not be thinking about, where am I innovating? The platform should be available for innovators to come and innovate on. Cloud will be that's available for everyone. In terms of pricing, right? It's not that it's only for a few elite class, right? Yeah. Now cloud is going to be available to everyone at a price that they can afford and they can start doing, or probably even there, forget about affordability. It's just going to be there for people to start using it.
Yeah. Cloud will be their laptop, maybe. That's how they start off.
Yeah.
So Prasad, from as the GM of Akamai India, I know Akamai India is playing a big role in Akamai's road to cloud. What's your perspective on that? How, I'm sure you're optimistic about how this center is going to add value, but where do you see it growing?
Yeah, so talking just about cloud to begin with, I think, it's very clear where our strengths are. We can very well do engineering for the cloud. We can do the reliability of cloud operationally and I think there's a lot of things that we can do out of the capabilities here. And again, it's just the beginning of the curve, if I can say that. And we've historically done this very well. Even for security, It was the same thing where, we were picking up that muscle of security as we were going along. Here we are where we have, very deeply entrenched security operations, security engineering, the entire set of both skills as well as, functions, right, that we do here. So I think that's the same for compute. And this being a great place to work, we've been marching along that journey of, globally, that's a mission critical goal for us as a company, that all our centers have to be like best places to work. We want to continue that. And it's about the capability maturity, right? You start off somewhere and you mature, you go up the value chain and, do a lot more things. So that's, and then it's a similar trend we are seeing in the industry. There are a lot of reports out there by NASSCOM and others talking about how more and more, global responsibilities are being done out of here and how we can contribute.
It cannot just be engineering. It cannot just be support. We want to make sure that just everything come together.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, at least from a compute, which has been happening for other areas. It needs to be 360. Product management should be out of here. Program management should be out of here.
Absolutely.
There should be pre-sales coming out of here. There should be sales and marketing coming out of here. I'm just saying 50.
We have access to a huge market in this region, right? I mean, the most exciting stuff that is being done is in this continent, in the region. There's so much going on, whether it is streaming, live matches to,
exactly, not just made in India,
millions
but
of
made
people, and whatever it is, like whether it is user generated content, commerce, there is plethora of stuff, and I think it's a bounty of opportunity.
Yeah, the amount of users we have, who have access to the internet, the startup culture we have in India, I think a lot of potential customers out there.
Why do you think the social media is thriving? Why do you think social media became such a huge hit? If a 1.4 billion population does not take it, right? Because if you look at all the media content, TikTok is a big hit here.
Yeah.
So all those things are the ones, for all those things, just not the people, and it's also the marketplace. India is the marketplace for Akamai at various levels.
I think we've taken that to heart over the years, and try to use the market elements also, to kind of aid the growth and have the right local capability maturity.
Awesome. So Prasad, I know, in your role as the GM of Akamai India, you take part in a bunch of these initiatives just to foster the culture here locally. Can you talk a bit more about how that ties into maybe our Akamai's road to cloud?
Yeah, I think this is something that is very dear to me, and basically focusing on innovation and what we call center of excellence for engineering. So a couple of examples is like we have great innovation programs running out here, like where we do like proof of concept of new ideas that will help our customers. Right? We branded Akanova internally, but that's something that we push hard here. We also, there's a lot of hype curve around this whole AI stuff. So we have a program where people are looking at large language models and saying, okay, what is the state of the art and how does it apply to real business cases? Right. So that's being done. So I'm just giving a couple of examples where there's a lot of ownership where people jump in, get their hands dirty, go try it out, and it feeds back into I would say the company direction very clearly. And that to me is the exciting part, is forward looking, looking into the future. How do we actually grab the trends that are happening there, separate the hype from the reality, and be at the forefront? That's something very dear to me.
Awesome. Subbu, back on a personal journey, what would you say is your most or your biggest accomplishment technically? It could be like something that you did by yourself, it could be something you drove with your team, or whatever you want to share.
I mean, for me, as I said, team matters more than individual. Individual can win small victories, but if you have to really succeed, individuals, but if team is the one that. So for me, anything that is team oriented is very important. Along with that, what's very important for me is the work that you do needs to be recognized and patented, right? Anything that needs to happen, we need to patent our work, because end of the day, all the hard work that you do, if you can't bear the fruits for that and someone else takes credit for it, it's not the right thing.
Right.
So I think that one of the things I would like to do is more and more is people need to start thinking about what in my day-to-day work, what is patentable? How do I patent? I have a couple of patents. I don't know, a few of them, four of them I have. So I have 4 patents that's been assigned. But those again, I want to make sure that it's been a while since I got into that. So I got distracted in doing a few other stuff at this point of time. But for me, that is very important in the sense that safeguard your work. The only way today to safeguard your work is to have that patent for your company or you or whatever be the case, however you go deliver it. We got to make sure that happens. If that does not happen, you might lose it to someone else, or you might have to pay.
Maybe easy to replicate too, right?
Yeah, it's easy. Sometimes it's okay if you have it, people do it great. But then what happens is you have done the hard work, someone else patents it, and they come after you saying that you stole it from me, and you end up. Those kinds of legal battle goes on. Right. Yeah. So those are the reasons why I personally want more and more people to be thinking. It's very simple than what people think. It's easy to do. Process can be patented. Innovations doesn't have to be from scratch. Even any updates.
We even have help here locally. So
right.
We have a patent lawyer who can easily help.
That's a case I think we should push more and more. That is one area I would like to see across the board in Akamai, just not in India, across the board in Akamai for us to say, do more of that one. For example, again, I go back to my previous companies. They just make money out of their patents that they have created, right? Because people are using it, they get revenue royalty on that one. We, in fact, have done so great things and we are lagging behind. School culture needs to come here and we got to say that, I'm going to write it down, I want to patent it and just not get away with it. That's one thing. If you want me to think what I have done, I'm proud of my 4 patents, and I want that to be a culture in every place that I get into.
Prasad, what would you say?
I think the fact that we have fared in the top 20 workplaces in India for consistently 2 years in a row. To me, that's a matter of pride for all of us, who have been here, who have fostered that work culture, and together we've done a lot of things, right, as a result. But being able to come back to that and say, look, we have a thriving culture, everybody appreciates it, and it opens up, bringing your best self to work, that I think is a big thing. And I think continuing to do that in an evolving culture, right? Like we are very flexible in the way we are working. We are trying out all these new modes of working together
and there also we have shown a lot of adaptability.
We have shown a lot of adaptability, and I think we need to continue to evolve. The good thing about culture is it's fluid. It can go through ups and downs, but bringing it back and to the point that Subbu said, we have shown consistently that we can surmount challenges, whatever they are, whatever we pick to, solve a challenge, we will do it. I think that's what I want to look forward to. That's the exciting part. And, there's a bunch of things, whether it's growing compute here to a sizable kind of, I would say, contribution. It goes on and on.
Awesome. Looking back, Prasad, which qualities of yours would you say helped you succeed in your role?
Oh, that's a tough one. But
I know we come from the engineering culture, so that drive, basically
the drive
dealing with uncertainties, I think those things obviously come in.
But the soft skills is what Subbu was pointing out about. So a couple of things that I would say is definitely communication. I always believed, and I kind of try to coach our next generation leaders about it, that it's okay to over communicate sometimes. And as engineers, we tend to hold back. Right? Put your head down, do your stuff, why communicate? But I think that's definitely something that helped, and definitely that interpersonal awareness, that what we call interpersonal savvy, being able to understand where the other person is coming from, put yourself in their shoes. That helps a lot. So,
and especially in the last few years where we've all been remote, even in the same geo.
Yeah, exactly. I think, if we choose to solve those problems, like of being remote, of communicating, of understanding where we come from, then there's a hope that we'll all, agree and move forward and get bigger things done. Because I think Subbu said it right. It's not about individual accomplishment. We're in a team sport, right? And how do we really fight it out there as a team sport and put our best foot forward? That's a big thing.
And Subbu, already you mentioned about the hustle culture. Do you want to say something else? Or what other qualities helped you reach this place?
Prasad summarized it well, and I would actually say, kind of paste the same. But I would say this, right? For me, being fearless matters a lot. Sometimes, right?
I have a word for it. Yeah. Courage.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you get pinned to the wall and you're in a corner and you kind of take it lying down.
Yeah.
But to recoil, spring back,
it's very important.
It's very important.
And not just that, like sometimes we're too comfortable where we are.
Comfort zone.
To leave that.
That's the thing, right? Sometimes
that's a great point.
If you're not, you're stuck, either you take it or you're not, and you spring back. That fearless nature is important, but that doesn't mean you got to be
risky.
Bad with others.
Exactly.
That's take bad risks.
It's not being risky. It's being fearless for the fact that you got to know when to do what. That's being fearless. Being brave is important, right? Not being a maniac. We're not asking to do that. To step up and do the right thing needs courage. To start to talk about, if something is not going right, to stand up and say it's not right needs courage. Right? Those are the fearless attributes that you need to be having. Right? Otherwise, what are you going to do? Get into your comfort zone, or you're going to think doesn't matter to me what's happening there. Then you're
apathetic, right? Like you don't care anymore. Like
exactly.
I think that's going to lead to really bad stuff.
Yes, you're stifling not only yourself, you're stifling everyone at that point of time. Right? That's one thing I would say for me. I've been always in the sense that but it's not that you got to know when to do this also the right thing. Timing also matters a lot. It's not that you're going to be in this confrontational mode, ready to come to the parking lot kind of thing. It's not that. Right? So, but what's important is to be fearless.
And that courage, I think, paired with ownership goes a long way.
With accountability as well, essentially. Obviously, our qualities help us succeed. Our mistakes also help us take a long way. Which one would you point? If I press you hard and say, Prasad, identify that one mistake that has made you what you are.
I've been very, very technical and single-minded about that in the past, and becoming more holistic thinking end-to-end has been a journey. And I really take pride in that fact where I wouldn't say it's a mistake as such, but it's your personality. It's what you do very well. You get stuck in it, right? But if you're able to open up the horizons, and we've had some phenomenal strategy, thought leaders who came and talked to us, that is one thing, heads down is great. Mm-hmm. But as leaders, you need to have heads up too, where you are able to look past what is happening here and now. That has been a big lesson for me.
A mistake that you want to just highlight based on how it shaped your career.
For the good or for the bad?
I think it would be like if we say that where we are is good, I think every mistake also has helped us.
Well, it feels like mistake when you do that. For example, I would say this: every company I've moved, I've not jumped many companies. You guys have been in this for a long time, but I've moved from at least A, B, 3 companies, right? So whenever I move from one place to another place, initially it feels like, is it a mistake? Did I make the wrong move? right? That's the thing. But so far, it's not turned out to be. It's turned out to be a wonderful decision that I've taken. Starting from my college days, choosing my college, choosing the electives, moving on to the first company by choice because I had multiple colleges to go from the choice I made, and moving on at the time from A company to the B company, and then coming back to the companies that have already been working. So that initially feels that you made a mistake because you don't know what you're doing. But then those mistakes, which I thought was a mistake, turned out to be a real success factor for me, because that helped me where I am at this point of time. Because otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys, giving this podcast, meeting Prasad and you, Abhishek. So it's been fantastic because it's not a mistake. It's felt like a mistake. It's always a glorious drive that you go.
Yeah, one door closes, the another opens.
I mean, it's not. We don't close the door. Doors are always open because doors are there for us to go back.
Which ones you choose to go through.
Exactly.
The choices that you make.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to talk about the human side of engineering now. I know this is a big part of who we are, our identity, but obviously there are other dimensions to our life as well. How do we balance work and life? I know, and maybe Prasad, I can start with you. I know Akamai India is known for its great work-life balance.
Yeah.
Essentially the culture that allows people to be what they want to be. How do you personally manage that?
Yeah, so this is a tough one, right? Like here we are sitting in a podcast where we have to be present here, which means you cannot be back there at home taking care of stuff. But again, I feel fortunate that culturally we are very aware of that. When we say bring your best self to work, we also say be your best self at home to your own environment. But personally, for me, I like to focus when I do work and set up my environment to be that way, where I'm able to focus and get this thing done.
Right.
I'm very flexible on the communication modes. So I'm completely okay. Once we have a good relationship, and you've seen this, I'm completely okay not doing business personally. Like you and I don't need to be in the same room talking to get great things done. We can be across on like a WebEx or phone call,
right.
Anything, right? SMS, it doesn't matter, text. So that's something that I follow so that the work gets done. But at the same time, if you have to be somewhere, you are there. And carving out time, I'm fortunate in Akamai, we have this concept of wellness days, wellness weekends. Carving out time, that time to kind of spend with family and some activities, that is great. And once in a while, figure out some vacation, some family outing kind of thing. So, it's a tough balance, but being very intentional about it is, I think, important.
Knowing what's important overall. I mean, work is very important. At the same time, our family time, our personal time, health, relationships, I think all those as well.
I mean, I stick to my yoga schedule 3 times a week.
Wow.
So that is something I do pay attention to. Mm-hmm. So it helps.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you got to trust, right, in the sense that things will happen. That's not a blind trust. You have to build that trust. Once you have built the trust with your family, they're going to believe that you're going to make enough time for them. You got to build trust with your work so that your people will believe that you will get it done. So once you have built that trust, you don't have to be there 24/7 saying that I'll get it done. They know that you're going to keep up your word. You're going to follow through and make it done and make it happen, right? So I don't have to go tell my wife and daughter saying that, I will do this, believe me, trust me. Sometimes I say, I promise them I'm going to take them here, there. For some reason, work might come and I might not be able to, but they trust me to know that I will follow up on that. If not today, tomorrow I'll get it done.
And there is a good reason why that happened. Good reason
why it did not happen. The similar fashion, work also is the same story in the sense that I promise something, I'll be there for you, I cannot get it done. It's not the lack of trying. It's
the one-on-one with me where he pushes it
on everything tiny.
And that's why you'll be cancelling my one-on-one.
Well, your days are overlapping. I don't know what you... Yeah. So that's the fun. Trust. Build trust.
The next one is, it's very interesting for me personally. Now, I know both of you went to the US and you built a great career there.
He's still there.
Yes, he's still there. You came back. So from a perspective standpoint,
Yeah.
where do you see the basically the industry in India going? For you as an insider contributing directly, and for you as someone who's building an org here, how do you see that? Maybe Prasad.
Yeah, it's a great question and something that I would advocate people to actually debate about, saying, geos are different, markets are different.
And I'm sorry, could you also apply the relevance? You took a certain decision back in the day.
Yeah.
Someone who's graduating now, how should they think about this?
Yeah, and I told you my son is in college, so it's very relevant personally to me also. So the first point I would tell anybody is a global exposure is always helpful.
Great.
Right? So if somebody is in college right now and they're looking at it as, look, I'm going to graduate, what do I do? And luckily, during my times, the escape route was only towards the west. Yeah. I think that has changed.
Exactly.
People have several options, people in their third or final year decide to come together and form a startup, and venture capitalists are waiting with bags of gold is what I hear.
If you don't have a startup by the end of your fourth year, you don't get a degree.
Something is wrong. But, that's also a great option. But I would say, if you at some point are looking for global exposure, whether it's through education or employment, I would recommend it. It opens up a lot of things, when you do it. When you ask me saying, how are the opportunities here? And, I've worked in the US. I work with other countries, but never in that country, but US I have, and I've worked in India. I think they're different markets. They have different strengths, but both are very thriving markets, right? And you just mentioned about good startups. E-commerce has come a long way in India from the 90s and 2000s, right? Definitely a lot of opportunity here, very thriving, especially if you're technology, right? I know we have a huge set of people in other sectors who are still probably struggling, but I think technology markets have matured here. And culturally, we have some strengths. And there are some differences if you take US as a market. I think there's a lot of emphasis there, whether it's communications or whether it's project management, stuff like that. There's a lot of strength if you go to US. I think here people are very hands-on. They want to get stuff done. Yeah. And they're more academically oriented. Yeah. As you can see, culturally, people want to get their degrees, want to be in education, all that stuff. So I would say those things are still like a differentiator because you always play to your strengths.
Right.
But my advice is, work on the development areas. Don't just hunker down in your area, what you do, just heads down, but understand why certain products launch so well from the Americas.
Right.
Whereas why we get certain things done so well out of here. I think it's because you're playing to your strengths. Mm-hmm. That is something that I would, ask for people to debate and understand, because I think it'll help make a difference. And the future will unfold differently.
Right.
When you change your mindset. So shortly, that's what I would say.
India per se, market is huge, right? Every opportunity is there. Before, when we were growing up, there were only 4 or 5 fields that you can get into. Now, every single field, right? Before, if you're a simple thing, if you're an astrologer, you'd be sitting under a tree with a parrot and you'll have 4 people, right? But now you look at it, it's all digitalized. Those people online. They make far more money than even a doctor or an engineer. So the opportunities have changed. And see from where you are, a parrot giving 2 cards, now a tarot reader sitting in online and asking for millions of dollars on that, right? So opportunities have increased, things have done. Entrepreneurship, I think, has to kick in a little more here. I think people are doing
job
it.
creation. I think instead of asking for a job, try to be a job creator. I think
that was very, very important. That and now you have the investors who are willing to do it. Yeah. We have to have that thing to go make it happen. One thing I really want to do is, which I see a big difference between while I was here and then I entered there, is discipline in all forms, right? That I think we need to be nurturing among ourselves, among our kids and our neighbors. Some amount, I will stop at discipline in which fields you guys we all can debate and decide, but that discipline needs to be there, which we lag little bit.
Culturally, we are more flexible.
Yeah, we're grey.
Yeah.
We love our grace.
But the same people...
we don't want to be...
Yeah, but I'm saying, but the same people, when we go there, we seem to be more disciplined than what we are here. But when we come back here, I myself tend to be less relaxed.
Be a Roman in Rome. That's
the only thing I would like to change. Otherwise, I wouldn't change one iota of what we are, because we are very cultured. From a family perspective, from hardworking and respect and everything else. But that discipline little bit is a loose factor for us. And if we tighten that discipline a little more, I think we're going to go where no one can. It's like Star Trek.
There are infinite possibilities.
Yeah. No one has gone before.
Beyond, definitely. On that note, thank you so much, Prasad and Subbu. It was great talking to you. Learned a lot myself.
Thank you for asking all the tough questions.
I know. You did a great job, navigating it and asking the right questions and pulling the right things. Thank you very much.